Welcome to the Drum Set Shrink podcast. My name is Stefano Ashbridge, and this is a show about drummers, drumming, and the challenges that come with playing the drums. Today we have our first guest on the podcast. We're going to talk to Bart Robley about his new book, The Rhythmic Journey. Bart is a professional drummer, educator, author, and podcast host. Bart, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is a real honor to be on your podcast.
Honor's all mine. So to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your drumming journey?
Yeah, my drumming journey started really young. I'm going to completely date myself here. My mom, when I was growing up, she loved Elvis. My mom was just a huge Elvis fan. And so in 1973, when I was 5 years old, you can do the math, my mom took me to see Elvis at the Denver Coliseum. And I don't remember the exact, I remember the concert, but I remember the event more than anything. And he had a comedian come out and open the show. And then after the comedian, the Sweet Inspirations, which were his backup singers, they came out and kind of did hits of the day. I kind of remember them doing a whole lot of Motown and stuff like that. And they played with Elvis's band. And then Elvis came out, and the intro song that he walked on stage to was 2001 Space Odyssey. And when he hit the stage, it was like a bomb went off. And I was just like, I didn't know what was happening, but I knew the energy was phenomenal at that very young age. And then shortly after that concert, there was a TV show called Aloha from Hawaii, Elvis Aloha from Hawaii. And that's kind of what started the whole thing, because I was, at this point now, a huge Elvis fan and a music fan, because, again, Mom always had the music playing in the house. Well, now at this point, when I'm watching it on television, there's a camera set up behind Ronnie Tutt's drum set, and he's playing a big, huge blue sparkle Ludwig drum set, and it was just amazing. I was just mesmerized. And I remember I've talked about this a lot on the Deck show, that his hi-hat was going up and down, and I didn't know if that was an automatic thing or if he was doing it, but I was focused on that hi-hat, and I'm like, how does that thing work? And it was just mesmerizing to me. So that's really how it started. And I just carried on from there. Once I started playing, my love for it and my passion for it just grew and grew and grew.
That's amazing. I love to hear about that spark, the show that just started it off. That's
right.
Great.
Yeah.
I could feel it myself, because we all have that experience. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that all drummers we all share that. Once we start talking, whether it's on a podcast or we're just, like where you and I, we met on my podcast, you and I did, but then the first kind of opportunity that we had to hang out was at the Sabian event at up in Burbank. And we all kind of told those stories. How did you get started? How did you get started? Where did you grow up? Where did you take lessons? Who was your first influence? All that stuff. I'm right there with you. I can totally geek out on that stuff. I completely love it.
Yeah, exactly. And did you take lessons? Or?
Yeah. So I bugged my mom and dad to get me a drum set. So my dad made me a drum set out of paint buckets.
Wow.
So I beat the heck out of that. And then when I was in right before I started elementary school, I just kept bugging them. I'm like, I really want to play drums. I really want to play drums. And so my mom came home with a pair of sticks and a practice pad, one of those little square wooden blocks that kind of tilts to the side and has a piece of rubber on it. And I just beat the heck out of that thing. And then when I got into whatever grade it was that you could join the school band, I signed up for it. Well, my dad went to the parent-teacher night, and he brought home a saxophone. And I'm like,
oh,
are you new around here? I don't want a saxophone. I want a drum set. And so, anyway, I played that for, I don't know, 1 year, I think. And then, but I spent more time in the back of the room beating on the drums. And so the band teacher said to my mom, I think he should be a drummer. So the next year they got me a snare drum, and I already knew some of the rudiments from, kind of just, I mean, this was so long ago, it was archaic, and coupled with the fact that I grew up on a cattle ranch, there wasn't a music store that was real close by. I was out in the sticks. I was out in the middle of nowhere. There was no internet, none of that. So I just kind of, I kind of knew what a drum roll was, and one of my friends in school kind of showed me that. And then I had learned a paradiddle. But then when I got into that, when I got into the school band playing drums, I started taking private lessons, and it just went from there. Just anybody where I could pick up a piece of knowledge from, or I could nick something from, like, ooh, what's that? I'll take that. That's like everybody else. That's just what I did.
You said you studied the saxophone for about a year when you were really young.
I wouldn't say I studied it.
Okay.
I made a bunch of noise with one, but that was about it. And
okay.
Honestly,
Gotcha.
What's funny is I would, like, I'm sitting in my studio right now as we're recording this podcast, and I'm looking around me. I've got an E drum set. I've got my drum set here that I record on. I've got a guitar. I've got a cigar box guitar, and there's tons of percussion instruments. I really kind of wish I did play the saxophone now, because it would be fun. So, who knows? Maybe I'll find one at a garage sale someday and buy it and, start making noise again. But yeah, I didn't really study it.
So do you play guitar?
Again, I mean, I know a couple of chords, and I can fiddle around, but I don't play guitar. I actually bought the guitar because I wanted to learn. And I got it, and everything I've learned has been, from one of the guys in the band. Hey, show me how to do this, show me how to do that. But I know enough to be dangerous, and I pick it up and plunk around on it. But it's on the bucket list to start taking lessons and, learn how to play better. Well, what happens with me is every time, and this is so dumb, every time I pick up the guitar and I start practicing it, I'm literally sitting right beside my drum set, and I start practicing, and I'm playing along, and then I start thinking, I really need to work on that Afro-Cuban thing, or I really need to work on the, something on the drums, and I'm like, I'm just wasting time on this guitar, and I go play the drums. It's like I feel guilty about it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Your drums are looking over at you.
I know. I need therapy, I think.
No, but that's awesome, because, I mean, playing another instrument can only help you as your perspective when you're playing the drums, to have an understanding about what the other musicians are doing. So,
all right. Do you play anything else?
Kind of like you, very badly. It's the same story where, there's not enough time to work on my drumming, that I don't feel like I have enough time to seriously take up any other instruments. But yeah, I can plunk around on guitar a little bit, I guess.
That's cool. Yeah. It's funny because I'm sitting here and you spend all the money on the guitar. I got this it's a beautiful Fender Stratocaster, and it's like, I should really learn how to play the darn thing.
Right. So if we fast forward from your beginnings, and even fast forward to now, you are a busy professional working drummer with a lot on your plate. Can you talk a little bit about what you've got going on? I know we're going to talk about the book. I know that's the new thing, but you do so many things. Can you just talk briefly about all the stuff that you've got going on?
Sure. Yeah. And thankfully, I'm a busy working drummer. I have to say that, because I'm like you. I mean, we live here in the L.A. area, and again, you and I were at the Sabian hang, up in Burbank. And I could throw a rock out the window and hit 20 guys that play drums better than me. So I'm very thankful for everything I have, and I want to start with that. So yeah, I moved to L.A. from Colorado many years ago, and just kind of started playing around the scene back when it was, doing the Sunset Strip thing, doing the Roxy and the whiskey, and back when Gazzari's around. Again, I'm dating myself, but played all the L.A. clubs, and did that. And then kind of got tired of that. I just got burned out on it, and I played in a couple of metal bands. And as much as I love heavy metal, to me it was kind of getting to where it was really creative, but yet everything was still kind of the same. The voicing wise, right? Drums, bass, guitar, everything real loud, and I kind of wanted to add more voicings into my music, and so I got into, and I'd always listen to country music, and again, growing up listening to Elvis and all that sort of stuff, I really liked other textures, I guess we could say, within the music: mandolin, slide steel, clean guitar, Telecaster, Stratocasters, not just loud, distorted guitar. So I got into the Sam Morrison Band, believe it or not, 24 years ago. And when I got into the band, it was a country band. And so the leap from being in a metal band to a country band was, oh my God, it was just insanely challenging. And at first, I'm sure, we've all run into this, where we hear something like, oh, it's easy, I can do that. But then when you kind of start digging in, and you really start listening to the feels and the textures again, back to that kind of, way of describing it, everything changed for me. It was a really pro gig. I did a couple of local gigs, and then as a sub. And then Sam called me up and he goes, hey, my drummer has left the band and the guitar player left. And I've got a new guitar player, but I really need a drummer, and we're going on tour over in Europe for 2 weeks, and the gig is yours if you want it. I said, yeah, man. So I've been holding on ever since,
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, it's worked out really good, and it's kind of become more of we do a little bit of everything. It's more like classic Southern rock type of feel to it. A lot of very Allman Brothers-ish, type of stuff. Real jazz and rock influence stuff, which I really like, with our original stuff. And then for, working-wise, we do a lot of that type of music in cover tunes to work. A lot of Allman Brothers and stuff like that, Leonard Skinner and things like that. And then we have a Bob Seger tribute that keeps us super busy. And that, believe it or not, we got signed to a record label many years ago in 2007 to re-record all of the Bob Seger stuff. And it ended up a lot of that, and because of that, we had to do it note perfect when we re-recorded it. And so all the songs were from the second album on. I just cut to click reading the charts. I didn't, and I transcribed them and then went in and read them to click, and the rest of the band would come in and play. And so because of that, my studio chops and my reading chops got up. I could cut a song without any other musicians in the studio with me and read it down and make it sound like a song, make it sound musical. And so that kind of, sprung me into doing more studio work and more session work. And yeah, I've always been a teacher, and I really enjoy kind of like, what Dom Famularo talked about, always, passing on to the next generation of drummers. And I really enjoy helping people. Like I get a charge out of seeing a student, whether they come to me at the very beginning of their drumming journey, or, they've been playing for years and they want to work on their reading or their recording or their learning the rudiments or what have you, and see them get something out of that. I've just always loved that, And, yeah. And so because of that, it went into, well, if I'm a teacher, I want to author some books. So I've been a writer forever, and I used to write for Classic Drummer Magazine and Music Scene International, but magazines that aren't even around anymore. But I've always kind of been a writer, and really enjoyed that. So that's how the whole writing thing started.
Oh, excellent. Which brings us perfectly into your new book. You have a new book that is coming out, or the digital edition is already out?
Right.
Talk about that?
Right. So it's kind of a cool thing. So the Rhythmic Journey, Unleashing the Beat Within. I started writing it about 3 years ago. And I'd already had a publishing deal on with Centerstream, Hal Leonard. So Centerstream was the publisher, and Hal Leonard was the distributor on it. And the Centerstream is a great publisher. They do a really good job, and I really enjoy what they do. And we've had a fantastic relationship. However, with this book, I knew I wanted to do something a little bit more. So I approached Joe Bergamini with Hudson Music. Joe, from the Sabine Education Network, and I said, hey, look, I've got this book, and I would really like to, see if Hudson is willing to pick it up. And so I sent it over to him, and he said that they would pick up the online digital version. So to answer your question, finally, the online digital version is on Hudson Music. You can go to Hudson Music and look it up. It's on their homepage, and you can buy it there. The hard copy version, since they didn't want the rights to the printed version, I went back to Centerstream and told them what I was doing. And I had told him before, I'd shopped the book to Hudson that that's what I was doing, and he was fine with it. He goes, "Yeah, I want the printed rights." I said, "Okay, great." So I signed a deal with them for the printed rights. So they're not on Hal Leonard. It's not up there for the digital version, just the printed version. So the printed version is coming out on Hal Leonard, and I have a pre-sale, a little plug for the book here. I got a pre-sale going on my website right now, which is just my name, bartrobley.com. And if you go there and you the first 10 people that buy the book, and I've already sold a few, I'm not sure how many, but I have a few left. The first 10 people get a copy of my ASAP Drum Rudiments Plus, and it's just the original 26 rudiments on a rudiment sheet, and it's recorded. You can download the rudiments and play along with them. And then on the back of this, there's one of my original compositions, which is a snare drum piece, a rudimental snare drum piece that was influenced by the NARD book, National Association of Rudimental Drummers. It's a song. It's a piece of music called "The Attack of Mark the Shark." It's a
nice.
Yeah, it's a cool little piece, and it got signed to Crucial Music for commercial use in movies or television or yogurt commercials or whatever they want to use it for. And it's a fun little piece of music. It's on the back there. So if you're interested in the book and you want to buy it, you can go to my website and check it out and buy it there. And once it comes in, you'll get a copy in the mail along with my with that rudiment sheet.
Excellent. I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes for anyone who wants to head over there.
I'll make sure to get them over to you too.
Is there a release date pending for the hard copy book?
Unfortunately, I just talked to my publisher yesterday, and once you kind of get put into the queue to go to print, Hal Leonard is such a big company. They won't give you a release date. They just don't do it. So they said they're like for sure by NAMM, but hopefully by Christmas. Realistically, though, I have a feeling it'll be out this month because it went to press in October, and whenever I've had something with Hal Leonard, like 100% of the time, they always give you a date further out than what really happens. I think they kind of do that on purpose, to give you a little bit of a
right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I'm thinking hopefully,
okay.
Hopefully within the next few weeks here.
When the digital edition came out, I bought mine the first day and started reading through it. And I got to tell you, I just in reading, page after page, it just struck me all these wonderful benefits of rhythm and playing the drums. Just from goal setting, listening skills, time management, the discipline, just like one after the other. It made me want to go play the drums.
Great,
it's really motivational. Yeah.
One of the things that, and this is way into the book, but one of the chapters, the 10th chapter in the book, is motivation versus determination. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the subtitle of that chapter. But I think there's, motivation to do anything, motivation to practice the drums, motivation to write the book. Okay. versus the discipline to do it are two different things. And I always tell my students that because, as we said at the beginning of our conversation, I'm sitting in my beautiful studio here that I'm so thankful for, and I've got this great set of Gretsch drums over here, and I've got a V drum kit over here, and I've got my guitar. But even though I've played these things my entire life, it's still a huge challenge. And I think that that's something that every drummer will tell you. I go see my buddy Stefano play, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go practice the drums. Well, then you sit down and you try to do it, and you can and practicing, you're doing something you're not good at, and so that determination to get better at something, that determination to go, you know what, I'm going to climb this mountain and I'm going to get to the top of it. Well, as soon as you climb that mountain, well, there's another mountain over there that you got to climb, So I think that determination to get through things is the one thing that I try to instill that in my students, and I try to instill it in myself, to tell you the truth, because it's really easy to get lazy and to not do it. So, that's one of the things that I tried to instill in my students, and I tried to get that to come across in the book.
For me, like I was saying, just reading that inspired me, and I try to think of that to keep things that inspire me around me for those times when I don't feel that motivated, and to just to try and inspire me, because like you were saying, you have the motivation, but then when you don't feel like it, you need that determination to keep going.
Right. Like let me ask you a question. What's one of the things for you that motivates you to practice? Or what's one of the things that's motivational to you in your life?
Listening to music. Well, definitely going to see a great show, having drumming friends like you that we can talk and bounce stuff off of, hearing what everyone's got going on. But lately it's just I just noticed just listening to music that inspires me makes me want to get on the drums. And I've also been thinking about what was I listening to when I was 12? And then going back and listening to that stuff and putting myself in that mindset of this is what first started it all, like you mentioned with Elvis.
Totally. And see, I think that's what we all have to have that, right? We all have to have that in our life you can kind of, get in touch with that inner 12-year-old, I remember one time, and this really hit me like a ton of bricks, and it really hopefully changed, well, it did change my mindset, again, back into the thankfulness of the things that I have. I was walking through the NAMM show, and I was just walking down one of the aisles, and I saw these two guys walking, kind of escorting this guy in front of me. And I wasn't really paying attention. I was just kind of walking through and looking at the show. Well, then all of a sudden I realized that the guy they were escorting was Paul Stanley. And I just thought to myself, oh, wow, that's cool. It's Paul Stanley, right? And I kind of, it was that simple of a thought. Oh, wow, there's Paul Stanley. Well, all of a sudden I realized, I've been in Los Angeles way too long, because back to the, the 12-year-old thing, man. If I was 12 years old and I'm walking along and Paul Stanley was there, I would have flipped the hell out, man. I would have just gone berserk, And so I kind of, at that point, I was like, you know what? I can't take this stuff for granted anymore. I have to really realize that, hey, Paul Stanley, I was a huge Kiss fan when I was a kid, man. I was the kid that painted his face like, Gene Simmons or Peter Criss and joined the talent show. I loved Kiss. And then also you get callous to it. No, you can't do that. You have to keep that. I think that's why I asked you. I think that internal love for what the original spark was. So I went through this whole phase. It started with Elvis, but then it went into Kiss and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, So just finding that spark. And I think that's perfect. That's why I asked the question, what is it that motivates you? But then now, okay, you go to, give me a song that you want to play but you've never played in your life. Like it's a drummer song, right? Every drummer knows this, but I don't know it. You got one of those?
Yeah, I would say this is one that I listen to all the time, but I don't think I've ever even tried to sit down and play it. Is Gray Street by the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, okay, perfect, perfect. Now, if you sat down to try to play that right now, you know, as well as I know, being professional musicians, that that is not going to be something like you may be able to get through a few bars, but then all of a sudden there's going to be Carter Buford's going to have played something where it's like, whoa, what was that? You know, or wait, how did he do that? What's the bass drums doing? And you got to go back, and now that goes into the other chapter of critical listening. Really critically listening to the music. Oh man, you know what? That kick drum, that's not on 3. That's on the E beat of 3, or whatever. It's on the last note of the sextuplet of 3. Whatever it is, I'm just pulling this out of the air. But that's the critical listening part. That's the part where you have to really sit back and listen to the music. And at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about the recording that I did with Michael Blum. Michael Blum was the producer on all of the Bob Seger records that we had done, the re-records of Bob Seger music that we did with the Sam Morrison Band. And then subsequently, as a side note, I ended up doing a lot more re-records other than just Bob Seger. I did a whole bunch of the Meatloaf stuff and a whole bunch of just one-off stuff back from the 50s. Again, it's all for commercial use. I joke about a yogurt commercial, but literally, I got a song that I played drums on a song in a yogurt commercial. That's where the joke came from. But yeah, and so doing those songs and being able to read them and transcribe them, and then go in and reproduce that. That's the critical listening part. It's not the drumming part, the part where you're sitting at the drum set with the headphones on and the click going and the tape rolling, or the Pro Tools running, however you're recording it. That's the last step in a very long process on my end of things in a recording studio. And so the critical listening is where that is where that all starts.
Definitely, yeah, and that's a great skill to have, especially if one has the aspiration to becoming a professional working drummer, to be able to do that.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. You have to have that. You have to have that.
Going back to the book, you'd mentioned that you started writing it, or the spark was like 3 years in the making. What was the initial spark or motivation that started the book?
Perfect. Well, so I had always written, like I said, and I have a Medium blog page you can go and look at, and you can read my blogs there. I used to write for Classic Drummer, interviewed a lot of great drummers, and did some fantastic articles with them. I think some of them are still up online. And Music Scene International, just any place that would publish my stuff, I was all about it. I wanted to get my viewpoint out as a drummer. So I knew I had a book in me about rhythm and drumming and the journey that I was on, and the things that I had done to become a drummer. And when COVID hit, I was, as with everybody else, the world just kind of shut down. And I'm like, well, how am I going to keep my teaching practice going? How am I going to, there's no gigs. All the gigs got canceled. What am I going to do? Right. So I'm out for a hike. Just because I'm I like to keep myself in shape. I work out, do stuff. I was out on a hike. Actually, my wife was with me, I think, and my phone rang, and it was Chip Ritter, and that's how Drummers Education Connection podcast got born, and how I met Jeremy. And I had met Jeremy Steinkohler at NAMM a few years before, but we became really good friends through that. Well, he had written a book called Finding the Groove, so that's a plug for Jeremy's book. It is an amazing book. I don't know if you've read it.
I sure have, definitely.
Isn't that such an amazing book?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, his whole thing on the, and I'm going to say it wrong. I know I'm going to say it wrong, on the myelin sheathing in your brain. He so eloquently puts it that it's like insulation on wires, and it's a chemical in our brains that makes us pick up muscle memory. So let's say I'm playing paradiddles, right, left, 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 and I'm practicing those over and over again. Well, that myelin sheathing makes the muscles just automatically do it. Well, if you're playing the paradiddle, right, left, 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 and you're playing it all wrong, the myelin sheathing doesn't know. It just keeps sending that signal. So if you're practicing good or correct, or you're practicing bad and incorrect, the myelin sheathing doesn't know. It just keeps sending the signal. And so you have to get past that. You have to make sure you're doing it right, and you have to do the repetitive motion so that the muscle memory will kick in. And that really inspired me to, because he worded it so well and he explained it so well. And I already had a couple of pages written, but I was like, you know what? Now's the time I'm going to write my book. So I just started writing, and it was, a page at a time, just like anything else, a little bit here, a little bit there. And I think with any project, the follow through to finish something is the hardest part. Once you write a book, you think it's done, but it's not. And so the follow through is always the hardest part. But that was the inspiration, honestly, was I knew I wanted to do it, and Jeremy just kind of, made sure that candle was lit, and away I went. I just kept going with it till it was done.
So you had inspiration, just like, musical inspiration, but book inspiration, I guess.
Totally. And see, that's what you were talking about a minute ago, right? When I asked you what inspires you, it's the drummer friends around you, it's the guys around you, it's the people that are cheering you on. And so that was my motivation, but believe me, it took determination, because there's so many times I'm sitting here staring at my computer screen and my eyes are bleeding and I just want to turn it off. I don't want to write anymore. And when I'm on the road with the band, sometimes it's like I'm sitting in my hotel room and I've got a couple of hours and I just don't want to write, but it's never going to get done. It's not going to write itself. So you just go to work, and it was a lot of determination. And so there again, that discipline that it takes to do that. So everything all ties into it, I think.
Yeah, definitely hard work, but it definitely paid off. I really enjoy reading the book, and what I usually do is I skim the chapters to get the lay of the land, and now I'm looking forward to getting back in there and really digging into each chapter. So congratulations, it's a wonderful book. Can you tell us again where it's available? You mentioned through Hudson, and then at your website.
Yeah, so if you go to Hudson Music, hudsonmusic.com, the digital download is there. And Joe Bergamini and Rob Wallace have done an amazing job with Hudson Music, and that's why I wanted to be on there. And just the fact that I'm on, the same publisher, as Steve Gadd and Greg Bissonette and, all these amazing drummers. It's like, oh my gosh, it's such an honor. So Hudson Music, you can go there, you can download it, you can read it today. If you want a hard copy of it, go to my website, bartrobley.com, and there's a button on there where you can buy the hard copy. And once again, the kind of the little perk that I'm running on that is a couple of years ago I did, actually it was about a year and a half ago now, I think, my publisher on Centerstream approached me and said, hey, I want to do a thing on the original 26 rudiments. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, and I had actually had the original 26 rudiments actually just already done. I had already kind of put it together in a little format on my computer. And I was like, okay, done deal. And then we put the Attack of Mark the Shark solo on the back of it, and I recorded them and did all this stuff. And so he put that out, and it's literally, it's like it's a little handout. It's a one-page thing, and the solo's on the back. It's a great tool. And so if you go to my website and the first 10 people that buy the book, you'll get a copy of that with it. And again, that's bartrobley.com. So that's the only place where you can get the hard copy as a pre-sale. Once it comes out, it'll be, everywhere that Hal Leonard sells stuff. And and you know what? Again, Hal Leonard being on there, Hal Leonard is like the biggest music publisher in the world. So being on Hal Leonard is just also such an honor. And so getting one book on two publishers is absolutely amazing. Hal Leonard is so big now. They do a little bit of everything. They used to be just the king of publishing, but now, Gretsch is involved with them and all these other companies. And so that's why I was kind of like, you know what? I think I want to go with the digital on Hudson because they're more specialized just in education and publishing. They're not selling guitar picks and stuff as well. And again, that's not a slam. That's what they're focused on.
Right, definitely. All right, well, everybody go get the book. Bart, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you having me on. And for those of you who, if you live up in the LA area, he's such a great guy. He's been on the Drummers Education podcast and just a real friend of the Drummers Education Connection and the Deck Show. And I really, really, really appreciate you doing this for me and giving me a plug on my book. It's been really wonderful. And if there's ever anything that I can do or we can on the deck can do for you, please let us know. We'll always be there for you and what you're doing. You got some great stuff going on, buddy.
Thanks, Bart, and me as well. Definitely. Thank you. Thanks for listening. You can find me at drumlessonsinla.com. My name is Stefano Ashbridge. Until next time.